excited. I'm pretty excited about have you guys here, Castelbajac and Robert, two like very talented artists of our time, like true artists. We're going to talk about your collaboration, your latest collaboration, Love Letters. But before moving that, we're going to have a small presentation about your past works and how all your works actually are like almost like related to each other. Like you have so much common in your past works, so we're gonna get through all of this.
Okay. Yeah.
Sounds good?
Sounds good. Sounds fine for me. Can I say something about the title of the talk?
Yeah.
The title of the talk comes from a song by Sonic Youth called Teenage Riot, and we wanted to give it that title because Thurston Moore is here and performing this afternoon. And there's a lot of stuff you see, I think, in John Charles and I's work that is a connection with music. And this song by Sonic Youth was really important to me when I was maybe 16 years old. And so it's a nice connection back to someone else at the festival who's kind of a hero of mine. So that's all.
Let's start with your like, what do you mean by history and your one of your like early works?
I went to fashion for history because I used to be fascinated by the clothes of disappeared people. You know, for example, I remember when I was 15, I seen the gown of Napoleon in exile in St. Helena Island at the end of his kingdom, you know. And this was a very small piece of textile with a lot of sweat and a lot of humidity here. And suddenly his empire was gone. So I have an obsession in my work with history. And this is a work called Astronomie Dominée, inspired by a song of Pink Floyd, early song of Pink Floyd, is a crystallization that I find in the painting of Francis Bacon when he painted the bishops, you know. He installed like a baldachin. So I did that in Paris to bring this king back to the cosmos.
Robert, you do also have the same obsession with history, right?
Yeah, this is a similar dealing with, let's say, the history of the British Empire. It's for the Kochi Biennale in India. And I chose a building which was built by the British Empire who, you know, overtook India in the 1800s, trying to be aware that the British Empire was not what my mother thought it was. You know, my mother thought the British Empire was like a couple of guys in white suits and white hats, drinking gin, teaching people cricket, you know.
But the
reality is we killed millions of people for money, you know. The British Army backed the East India Company with an army. It was a capitalist war. We robbed India of its natural resources and we killed millions of Indians, and it wasn't a happy holiday in the sun. It was a Holocaust. So I was trying to deal with the idea of exile in a way that recognized the darkness of British Empire history in India. As the British artist in an Indian Biennale, I felt really self-conscious about our history and tried to deal with that in a way that was therapeutic, I hope.
Yeah. And this is actually pretty new, right?
This is this is the airport of Orly in Paris, and it's a fresco I just did.
And
it
like
was quite challenging.
100 meters
240 meters long on 40 meters high. Oh. And the idea was to carry happy feeling and to take off the fear that we have when we go to the airport, you know, or things like that. And it's a project I do as an artist in residence. I'm working with the Orly airport and doing several projects like this.
Your both works are like really connected with cities.
Yeah.
And it's not just about like the cities you're living. Like in some cities that you've never been, like Izmir.
I think so, and part of the attraction for me to John Charles' work, and I think why we became friends and started to work together, is because I loved his chalk drawings in the city. The drawings that he does that are very ephemeral, and they're just moments on the streets. And actually, when we had met the first time, I kept going back to Paris, and I would see his drawings, and I would feel like I was almost in his footsteps, and I thought, okay, definitely, we have some sort of destiny that's connected. But of course, he gives his drawings to everyone in the city, and it's a very generous way of working as an artist, especially for someone as established and grand as John Charles. And I love the gentleness of the chalk drawings in the street. It's really inspiring to me.
You can also see his footsteps around here in Soho House,
a little bit. Not yet a lot. I have to work this afternoon.
Okay. But I've seen like a couple of them.
This is a piece that I'm just completing with Istanbul 74 Gallery, and it came after my show I did with the gallery here last spring. Then the show went to the Sir Modern Museum in Ankara, and then from that project we did this collaboration with Point Boranova, a new building in Izmir. And the poem is really simple. It's about the relationship, the mystical relationship between the sea and the city. Izmir, like Istanbul, is one of those places that because of the sea would always have been a city, because I think cities are a much more natural phenomenon than we sometimes think. And the idea that the sea dreamed the city, I think, is a beautiful idea. And Izmir is a really old city which is mentioned under other names in Homer's Odyssey and in many historical documents from different cultures. So I love the idea of the layer of history in the city, and also remembering the city is it's a constructed environment, but it's also nature.
You never had a chance to see Izmir, because you just had a baby, but how do you get the feeling of the city by
I don't know. For me, cities are kind of a phenomenon that's kind of universal. I think of cities as almost like our beehives that we built to protect us from the elements. They're like the beehives of humans in a sense, and for me, they're magical constructions that have taken centuries of collaboration between architects, builders, craftsmen, and I think cities are much more beautiful than art, actually. I think art can be made alone by anyone. To build a city, you need to have generations of compassion and collaboration on one vision to build something that's quite magical, and I think cities for me are just magical things.
I just read it somewhere, it was saying you need to fall in love with the city you are living if you're really looking for true happiness. You agree?
But I think we have the same emotion by the mystery of the street with Robert, When you walk in the Rue de la Sourdière in Paris, and you touch the wall, you definitively are in a fragment with the invisible, invisibility. Voilà.
This is your another work that you made in Berlin, right?
Yeah, it's in an abandoned swimming pool in the old East Berlin, and it's just like a kind of classic piece about the temporariness of palaces. I think it's good to remember that all power is temporary, and all palaces are temporary.
This is actually really rare collaboration that you made with...
It is a collaboration I did with Robert Mapplethorpe in 82. We have a commune friend who was Sam Wagstaff, because I collect antique photography. And I had many pictures of Gustave Le Gray, who was a photographer of Napoleon III. And through Wagstaff, I became friend with Robert. And during our several collaborations, he asked me to design a dress for this girl called Lisa Lyon. And Lisa Lyon, she's in a lot of pictures of Robert, actually. She was a champion of the world of bodybuilding.
She was also married
with Bernard Lavilliers.
Yes.
Was a French rock and roll singer, like a kind of a corsair look. And I did this black flag dress in 82, and we shoot this amazing image. And I worked many times with Robert. It was really
And you
wonderful.
were just mentioning that was the same year you worked with Cindy Sherman, right?
Yeah, it's the same year. Actually, it was kind of a wonderful period because everything was so smooth and easy. And I find that actually something of that era. And we did several collaborations. Oh, this is a painting that I did for a show in London called Triumph of the Sign, and it's called Maternity. And
I love that name.
it's an oil painting, exactly the size of the Fouquet painting, and it was like the iconoclastic of mixing such a beautiful, extraordinary painting with a symbol of our time.
Like, and
This was
this is like
beautiful
pretty
Robert performance.
strong work on the, like, you know, redefining history.
Yeah, this is a very Paris piece. It's a fire poem in the gardens of the Musée du Louvre. And the story is about Gustave Courbet, who is remembered as a great French painter. But Courbet was persecuted by the French government in his own time. So in 1873, when the Paris Commune destroyed the Vendôme column, the first one, not the one that's here today, Gustave Courbet was prosecuted and put in jail for the destruction of the column, even though he wasn't there. He wrote in an essay in a newspaper that since the column was built with the cannon, the bronze from the cannons of Napoleon's illegal imperial wars, it should not be in the square and it should be destroyed. That France's future was a peaceful republic and they had to do away with these celebrations of war. When the Paris Commune destroyed the column, because Courbet had written this in a newspaper, the police went to his house, arrested him, put him in jail, and he was eventually exiled from France because of the ongoing case for him to repay the costs of the column being rebuilt. So I wanted to do a testimony to Courbet by a contemporary artist to show that the artists kind of get each other's backs through the generations and we remember, you know. We have a cultural memory that can outlast, in a sense, political memory. So it says...
It almost looks like a revenge piece, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like a revenge piece, so...
Like a ruin?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like a ceremony, you know, in support of Courbet. It says, we will still erase the war monuments, even if we only have pencils of sticks dipped in rainwater, immediately exonerate Gustave Courbet, revenge prosecute Patrice de McMahon, and destroy the Vendôme column. So I'm reiterating Courbet's statement. Patrice de McMahon was the president when he was exiled from France. No one remembers Patrice de McMahon, but everyone remembers Courbet.
It was a magical moment when Robert light the sculpture to be burned in the yard of the Tuileries. Was a kind of a convocation of some kind of ghost.
Calling Courbet's spirit back to Paris.
Really.
You felt that?
Yeah, I felt that.
This is
actually
like, yeah.
It's
from like 1997, right?
Yeah.
And that was only year...
Actually, you know, my family has has like a 10th century of Catholicism, you know, and I work in '92 to design the gown for a priest in a prison, and it became very big success in the prison actually, and in '97 I was called by the bishop Lustiger to be the art director of a big reunion of 1 million of kids called the GMG, the Youth Festival. And
were you surprised by the call? Like, you know, it was the first time that, you know, they asked to, you know, design and they...
I was very surprised because you have to know, when I was 17, I did a blue jeans line where I copyright the name of Jesus, you know. And this was a big scandal at the time. And so I was surprised.
So they know you.
they know me for other reasons. And I was surprised to have, so I came with the idea of the rainbow. And when I present to the Pope and to the Bishop the idea of the rainbow, I said, I just have one idea. It can be just that. It was, because in the Bible, was the peace symbol. And, but I said, maybe you will not agree because it's also the flag of the homosexual community. And the bishop said, there is no copyright on the rainbow. And we went on with this amazing project.
That's a really nice quote.
And you can see here, it's some few of the 500 bishops. This is the gown of the Pope, which is now in Notre Dame, all embroidered by Le Sage, you know. and it was all using the primary color.
And you made like 1 million.
1 million T-shirt, you know, 1 million T-shirt is like a 6 big truck of tons of T-shirt. And at the end, the Pope told me, you have used color, vous avez utilisé la couleur comme ciment de la foi. You use color as a cement of faith. Voilà.
That's really nice of saying that. So within like this is like introduction of your work.
This is just a quote from a song by a writer called Jason Molina and a band called Songs Ohio that I was talking with my friend Derek Anderson about at dinner last night. And I put it in because it's about, let's say, the emotional karma of what happens in our time. There's a dead archer in the tower, you can hear it, but you can tell when the bells ring 12 times in hell, the bells ring out 12 times in this town as well. It's an introduction to
your work.
Why I started doing billboard poems in 2003 was really because I felt such a strong emotional reaction to the Iraq war. When we invaded Iraq, I felt like I felt heartbroken. I felt a kind of heartbreak, and I had been involved in the demonstrations for peace before the war, and they were big demonstrations, and they were very positive. There were 1 million people on the streets of London, the biggest peace march in history, and it felt like we would stop the war, which we knew was based on, let's say, grounds of falsification. So when the war started, even though we had had such a positive movement for peace, I really felt a heartbreak, and I really felt that I couldn't sleep, and I really felt like it invaded my dreams, you know? And this is the first billboard I made. It says, when we are sleeping, aeroplanes carry memories of the horrors we have given our silent consent to into the night skies of our cities and leave them there to gather like clouds and condense into our dreams before morning. It's just about the fact that, you know, a war doesn't just happen on TV. For British people and for Americans, that was kind of a TV war. We saw it on CNN. But I think there's a karmic debt that we pay, and I think that it invades our subconscious mind, and I think what we allow to happen in our name has an emotional effect. It invades our dreams, and it becomes part of us in a way that's tragic and heartbreaking. The next slide is just a stat, which is the number of innocent civilians killed in Iraq, not soldiers, by the British and American army. And I think it's just, you know, these things, when we talk about history and we talk about our time and our work as artists, it's just important to recognize these things in culture. I think it's irresponsible to make art and not have some kind of consciousness of the wider tragedies that we're a part of, actually. So,
yeah. So you believe like artists should take responsibility and express like what's going on around the world and the world and everything.
I think you have to, because that's my idea of the avant-garde, you know? I think my idea of the avant-garde is the idea of the avant-garde that Joseph Beuys had. It's engaged, okay, it's art and it's visual and it's poetic and stuff, but it's engaged with wider parts of society like politics and spirituality. I think politics and spirituality are both things that I think the avant-garde should be connected to. I don't believe in an avant-garde that's just aesthetic.
So, before talking about your collaborations, let's start with like your like past collaborations that you made with other artists. And you know, this is the age of collaboration now, and you know, in fashion, in art, in everything, you know, there's more than collaboration than ever. And you were just saying that back to 70s and 80s, it wasn't like that, right?
There always been collaboration, you know.
But it wasn't much more like commercial and for money and...
Well, today I'm surprised just that sometimes, you know, you you see more and more brand collaboration, two brands, you know. So it's not an artist and a brand or two artists trying to challenge. Now we are into a kind of a social marketing encounter of the third kind, you know. And let's say me, as I came out from boarding school at 17, very late, then I was in a province outside of Paris. My ambition was to meet all the most wonderful talent, you know. The first meeting I had actually was when I was 18, I heard that Antonioni was in Paris, in Place du Panthéon, in the Hôtel des Grands Hommes, in Hôtel des Grands Hommes. So I gave a tip to the guy who was bringing the breakfast, and I said, can I bring the breakfast to Mr. Antonioni? and so I had a black leather jacket then, you know, I was looking quite wild, very skinny, with my I have a Harley, and so I knock at the door like that with my bike thing and my breakfast plateau, you know, with the croissant and tea. He was taking tea. And I said, Mr. Antonioni, your breakfast is there. He said, what a strange service, this hotel, you know. So, but I said, I'm a fan of you, you know, because I said, your movie Blow Up make me come to Paris, you know. And so then...
Did you make him scared? Like?
A little bit, but he invites me. After that, we have a tea in the lobby. So I always have this desire of meeting or want to do an adventure with wonderful artists. So after that, life made that some artists have wanted to make things with
Maybe
me,
that's...
like with Robert.
Well, like
Robert, actually, I see his first work was those big black poster in London around 2000...
2007, maybe, 2008?
Maybe earlier, by the train station.
Yeah, I began to do this in 2004.
One was in a tunnel like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know him, you know, but I want to meet him because I was very sensible to his words.
That's funny.
You did the same thing, right?
Yeah, sure.
Did you do the same thing?
What do you mean?
Like,
this morning I bring tea to Robert. I bring the plateau of tea for Robert.
We had, that's funny, I guess we both discovered each other's works in the street, and then we had the same gallerist in Paris, Jenny Mannerheim, at Gallery Nook, and Jenny introduced us, and that's how we became friends and collaborators, actually.
And we have an old commune friend called Malcolm McLaren. Voilà, this is Malcolm.
Here he is.
This is Malcolm, and in a crazy collaboration, we became art director for a homeless magazine around 92. We want to do the best homeless magazine, you know. It was sold for €1, and it lasts 25 issues. And we have a good collaborator. We have William Klein, who is a photographer. We have a very top quality.
Seems like you had fun.
We have a lot of fun, yeah. This is a portrait Robert Mapplethorpe did of me in '83 with the wonderful hand of my friend Pat Cleveland. Pat Cleveland actually was a muse of Andy Warhol with Donna Jordan, and beautiful model.
Actually made for an invitation.
Invitation for a show. This is the show of winter '83. Every show I ask commission an artist or a friend to do the invitation for 40 years. Also as the music or the stage design, you know, where I did with Xavier Veillon, the music was done by Malcolm or Kraftwerk.
So that's another form of collaboration.
This is collaboration, yeah. And at the end, this is a fun collaboration
this is my favorite.
with Keith Haring, because Keith Haring was introduced me in 3 years before he died, actually. And he wants me he wants a teddy bear coat. You know, I did those big teddy bear coat for the birthday of Madonna. Mm-hmm. And so I gave him the coat, and he said, tomorrow I want to come to paint in your house.
That's so your house?
Yeah, that's my house. Nephew? And he ring the door at 8 o'clock in the morning, you know, with his painting, and he see those jars, and he starts to...
Painting.
Voilà.
So that's a really casual day in your house.
Casual Saturday.
Creating.
This is backstage, and this is a beautiful word of Robert. And this is this Pat Cleveland with...
that's from Berlin, right?
Yeah, I think the first slide is John Charles' iteration of, I think, some sort of pagan spirit, you know, the animal spirit, and that this is a far poem I did in Berlin on the site of the old Tempelhof airport that says the way the pagan gods are half remembered here, which I think is also to do with feeling, you know, the footsteps of the spirituality of the cities that you're in. And for some reason in Berlin, I can feel the spirit of, I think, the older Germanic pagan gods that were on the land before Christianity came there. And I don't know why, but I feel like I can feel those spirits. So, voila.
Yeah. These are the other subjects that we're going to
subjects coming up:
cover.
ecology, childhood, drawing, watches, and there's no watches.
Yeah.
There's drawings and childhood.
Luxury items.
Yeah, no, the watches is a joke.
Let's see.
This is a painting I done inspired by Raymond Loewy. You know, Raymond Loewy, I was a stagiaire, comment on dit un stagiaire, intern, when I was 18. He designed the logo of Shell, of BP, of Lucky Strike, and also the spacesuit of Apollo program. And I was amazed by his creativity, really. Some kind of a visionary.
That's from like 30 years ago?
No,
right?
this one is like 8 years ago.
Okay.
And it's about the emptiness of epic into those kind of little empty characters.
And this is a version of the ESSO logo, right?
Voilà,
In
c'est
a
ça.
way.
It's another
So that John Charles slide was a subversion of the ESSO logo. This is a piece I made in Seattle last year, which is a subversion, or let's say a retort or a riposte to something Ezra Pound said in the 1920s. And he was looking at the very beginning of the Electric City and looking at New York from a modernist perspective at the beginning of the 20th century. And he thinks, with the Electric City, we have brought the stars down to do our bidding. And he has this very idealistic notion of that. I wanted to rewrite that text from the point of view of the post-ecological crisis, or the ecological crisis that we're in, where we understand, well, we didn't bring the stars down to do our bidding. What we're doing with the Electric City is we're destroying the planet. So how do you rephrase the Ezra Pound for the age of ecological crisis? And so I changed it to squares and squares of flame with memory inside them, remembering the map under the floodwater, twist up the heart songs of the dead into empty stadiums, and all the stars pulled down now for real.
That's also from Seattle.
The whole series was on the site of the future Seattle Electric Company power station, and so most of the work on these billboards around the site had an ecological reflection. They're just my reflections on, trying to meditate on the ecological crisis, be conscious of it, and, it's going to take someone else like Daniel Pinchbeck to give us maps to evolve out of the carbon society we have now. I think everyone should read Daniel's new book, which is coming out soon, which is a positive map of how we get from where we are to a carbonless future. Go back one slide.
Sure.
You see the title of the show. Go back one more slide. I refer to that in a moment. Yeah. Go next. This is a Malcolm McLaren reference. It made me really angry. I saw an ad in The Guardian where they had used the Sex Pistols album cover on credit cards for Virgin Money, and I thought that was a complete disrespect of Malcolm's legacy. And so I made that billboard, one back, that says Chapter 6, in which we sit like docile cattle while you use the aesthetics of punk rock to sell credit cards back to us. I mean, it makes me furious. That's all.
And let's quickly check your all paintings. And let's start with this. This is what is the story behind this?
I always, during all my life and all my career, I was doing fashion and designing fashion, and also doing art on the side. This is 25 years ago, and this was inspired. I'm losing my microphone. Yeah,
no, it's fine.
I was inspired by a painting of the American Depression of Dickinson called "Neither Does She Spin." Is a woman just smoking and looking at time passing. So this is a bit. Voilà.
It's a fire poem that says to wake up and be like the weather, to be no longer the broken-hearted servants of mad kings. I feel like we're still in some way the broken-hearted servants of mad kings. Maybe the kings are different and they don't wear gold crowns, but we're still in that position.
This is a recent work I did.
Yeah,
and this is
one
about
of my favorites. Like,
yeah,
why
this is
me?
why me. It's called Why Me. You know, it's about because I'm always kind of scared when I see horror movies. Still now, you know.
Why?
I don't know. It should be like a child side of me, you know. And this is why me.
I think, John Charles, in your work, you're very connected to the spirit of the boy and the child, no?
Right.
You've managed to keep a connection with the boy spirit, you think?
And with the bird, too.
And with the bird.
Yeah, bird like me.
It's just some billboards that I did during the time of Occupy in London, which kind of reflect on some of the themes Occupy we're talking about. It's a triptych, it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, the triptych's a classical form, and it's a different kind of triptych. You can go through the three.
Like, not only like political stuff, like also like everything about life,
I mean, it's more
world, and
yeah,
they're all like moved and so like.
It's kind of more like romantic political than political, you know?
Yes.
There are wooden houses on land in faraway places that don't cost much money and strings of lights that make pass them gently and do not turn off the stars. I think we always imagine a simpler life than we have. We always imagine that wooden house. And you know, going back to nature, of course, we never sort of do it. We sit in the city and think about nature quite a lot. I do, personally. A lot of the time, if I'm making political work, I'm accusing myself of things that I'm guilty of, so I don't necessarily, I'm not accusing, you know, someone else. I feel responsible for everything.
It must be hard.
Well, I mean, we're all responsible for everything, so, you know, we share responsibility.
So let's start with, let's talk about your collaboration at May, like love letters from Paris and London.
Yeah,
so
it's
like a mail art conversation, that's what it calls.
A mail art conversation coming out of the idea of the collaborative drawings by the surrealists, you know, the Cadaver Esqui. And these are just some drawings of mine and John Charles's side by side, and you can see what we do individually.
So you made some drawings and sent to him, and he...
Half the drawings he started with a drawing and sent to me, and half the drawings I started with a poem and sent to him. And then they're currently on exhibition in London at Alex Eagle's space in Soho. And there's like maybe 12, 15 drawings in the series. It was a really nice way. I had a studio in Paris for a while, the last couple of years, and I was going to Paris a lot. And then I gave up that studio, and I missed John Charles. So I said, look, let's start to do some letters, drawings that are letters. And it was really nice to get them in the mail because I could feel his hand on the paper, and it's a really lovely way to have a conversation that's not verbal, but it's physical. And it was really nice because it was like love letters, actually. And I imagined that when I sent them, of course I sent them by FedEx, but I imagined when I sent them, they got on a little wooden boat and they went across the channel. And they arrived in Calais and they went on a, you know, and it felt like intimate and very old-fashioned, and I really loved that about the project.
Were you guys trying to make each other like surprised or like excited? Like
Well,
each other
I
words?
think we did things like John Charles for the first time worked in watercolor, and these are the watercolors that I do. And I think it's the first time you worked in watercolor, right? In aquarelle.
Yeah, absolutely. Me, I was a bit scared to don't have the courage to go to the post office, actually, you know. But after the moment where I started to be inspired by his word, you know, and doing some drawing, it was quite mysterious to send him drawing, to send Robert drawing, and to wait for the opening to see what he did with my drawing. Voila.
These are still our individual drawings, and it's just to give you a sense of our drawings independently. At the end, you see a couple of the collaborative drawings.
Those are my little ink. I'm a drawing addict, you know. This is totally my addiction.
Do you draw every day?
Every day, everywhere.
And everywhere?
Last night
I just saw it. You were
last night I
drawing
drew
on
on
the
the beautiful hand
Yeah.
of Begum, so I draw.
That's
I draw a lot with chalk actually since 20 years on the wall because there is this very mysterious things with chalk. It's mineral and it doesn't erase so fast and it's not aggressive, so people let them. So I have some angels in London who are there since 18 years or 19 years, and it's quite mysterious.
You do also love working with kids, like collaborating with kids.
This is natural, you know. As Robert said, kids like me, we have something without words. We make it quite magic. And this is a wall I just did in Paris. It's a 40 meters wall. This is my relationship with the street, I will say. Yeah.
I have a question for all of you. Like, all the big cities, metropolitan cities, are under the attack for like many years for like terrorism and bombs and everything.
Yeah.
And how does think that affects your work, your life? Because almost like all your works are like inspired by cities and all on the like street falls and everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I think those are tragedies, and I think that they're horrors and they're disasters and they're terrible, terrible things. You know, I think it's important, especially sitting in Istanbul, to say that I don't think we should use those things to make Europe and the Middle East further apart as societies. And I think there's been a lot of really fantastic and important integration in Istanbul between Europe and the Middle East in modern times. And it's so important that we keep that cross-cultural positivity, especially in this city, which is a symbol of, I think, understanding and multiculturalism.
What do you think?
I think it gives me strength, very strangely. It's all what's happening just give me the will to create, to give the most positive and hope expression of my work. You know.
So you guys think that, you know, artists should be more positive and create more positive stuff in those times?
This is my feeling, yes.
Yeah.
Definitively.
Yeah.
Oops.
You know, the only thing that can overcome war is love, so you have to make art that's an expression of love. It's a stronger force than war in the end.
This is in Seoul, and my assistant looked a little bit scared because it's because in Seoul actually they don't like street drawings. So I was several times talked by police.
But you didn't care at all.
But generally I have a tie and a suit, so they don't understand so well.
The gentleman graffiti artist, in a sense.
But he looked a little bit scared. This is also a series of drawings that Robert select.
I love these ones because I love the way in these ones you work in the negative space of the existing advertising. And since my work is like a lot about subverting billboard space and changing the tone of voice that you find in those spaces, then it's an example of John Charles using a kind of doing it détournement of billboards, which is the kind of situationist principle of hijacking. But also from just an art point of view, from a technical painting point of view, he's using negative space in a really interesting way. And if you go to the next 2 slides ahead, then he's using the paper you use for billboards has a blue back, and this is a remnant of the paper. And so he's using the residue of the billboard that was there as his paper. And I think that's really poetic, and it has a fantastic delicacy, and it's also very intelligent in terms of the language of painting and drawing.
It's also a very good exercise, you know, because I'm always challenging myself, and thank you, Robert, for your work, to find new techniques. Even in fashion, this was my challenge: how to find new material, how to find new stitching, how to bring accident. Actually, May I say a little story? It's where my imagination starts. I was in boarding school, in a very strict boarding school in Normandy. We have all uniform. And my dad suddenly came out of nowhere and he told me, I will take you for a hunt in England. You know, hunt in England. I've not seen my father since 3 months. And so we go in England. There were no, at this time, no sub, so we have to take the boat. And we arrived, it was pouring with rain in this hunt in front of a beautiful manor, beautiful. And it was smelling wet tweed. You know the tweed? You know the smell of wet tweed?
Smells like a wet dog.
Yeah, it sounds like a wet sheep.
Yeah, wet sheep. Yeah, of course, it's a wet sheep.
All these elegant gentlemen in wet tweed under the water. And waiting. We were waiting. Suddenly, the door of the castle opened. And a very elegant gentleman came out. He looked like a pink flamingo as a silhouette, you know? He was wearing knickerbocker. You know the knickerbocker? Like Tintin. Very nice tweed jacket with a little cape in Loden, you know, like that. Just put on the top of the I don't even know how it was staying, on the top of his shoulder. And on the top here, a little hat with a little feather. And me, I was 10, you know. I was looking at that man. And I've learned that after he has the best gun in the world. He has Purday gun. The Purday gun, you have to go to Purday, and you have to order them. And it's like the longbow during the king's time. They have to be done on your size. In England, the comment on dit sur mesure. The savoir-faire is very linked to the shape of your body, you know. And he has this gun broken here, in a gesture like this, like in a Gainsborough painting, like this. But something was very strange. His hand was finished by pink rubber glove to wash the dishes. I look at this man, I look at my father, I don't even say a word, and he said, "They are English." And I say, my father, I said, "Daddy," because I was calling Daddy strangely. "Daddy, I want to be English."
And what did he say?
He doesn't say anything. But I knew that my imagination started this day. I don't like perfection. I just like aesthetic accident, you know, aesthetic accident. And they have to be coming to you like in a Jung, you know the theory of Jung, the synchronicity. It sings the door opening, you go in, you look, you find. And the street is that. That's why I love the street.
I have one last question. We don't witness those accidents anymore. Because, you know, we live in a, like, Instagram world, you know, everything is filtered, everything is, like, super, like...
But Ali, these accidents are all over. It's just a matter, like old Miyamoto Musashi, the samurai, used to say, you have to see and look, you have to hear and listen. So it's just a matter of taking, you know, that's why we are going along with my pal, you know, and with all my pal, they are all good watchers.
So maybe our lesson is please put your phone away and just see.
No, phone is good. Phone is good.
I think John Charles, the reason we put his drawings here in with the Instagram frame is, and if you go to the next one, this is the only drawing we're showing from our exhibition. If you want to see the rest, you should go to the exhibition. Yeah. But it's, you know, this is one drawing, but we used his version of it on Instagram because I wanted to talk about the way he uses, as a non-Generation Y person, the way he uses social media to communicate his street drawings. I think he's picked up on that in a really smart and light touch and elegant way, and his Instagram feed is very poetic, and it's like a derive through a city, and it's like an old-fashioned flaneur, and you get the sense of his journey every day, and I can look at my Instagram feed and see where he is. And he's always doing a little drawing about something that happened that day, like he had the Yamamoto drawing about the little boy in China who was lost in the forest, Yamato. And, you know, I think he's...
Show that again.
Yeah.
Where is Yamato?
Where's Yamato?
Should be... Yes.
Yeah.
Here is Yamato.
This is Yamato.
The little boy who was lost in the forest
the
in
little
China.
boy, you know, who disappeared in the forest in Japan, 1 week ago.
So I think that it's interesting because with John Charles, I see a deep classicism in lots of his perspectives, but a real modernism and a real flexibility to use the tools of, like, the new tools of our time. And I think it's a really interesting example of using Instagram as an art medium in a really, really beautiful way.
Should we go with Q&A, or you want to show us what you have in your bag?
Yeah, because we spoke a lot about art, but I bring you some little goodies.
Okay. You didn't rob the bank or you didn't do anything, it's just your works, right?
We were originally planning to wear them on Robert.
I can try one on if it fits me, I don't know. Maybe we hold them up. Maybe I can help you to hold one.
This is a dress from '81. This is a dress from '81. It's my utilization of iconography, you know. Actually, here you can recognize this animal, but it's never decorative. It's always, I'm not victimized, that's great. I'm not victim of the shape. I'm trying to find a new spatial definition of the shape. Voilà. The dress, Robert.
I'm stuck.
Be careful, be careful.
Yeah, I know there's no zips.
The only one. This dress is from 72, I think, 72, 74. It's the first time I dress a boy. No, I dress my boys, yeah, my two sons. And this dress was the first printed dress I did in all my career. It was inspired by Jean Cocteau, cover of a book. Attends, Robert, attends.
I want to do my walk.
Yeah, you have to do a walk. Wait. Ali, can you fix the back, please? Okay. Voilà. This is... Wait. So as you see, it's the cover of the book of Jean Cocteau, La difficulté d'être, and it's dedicated to Fontenelle, who was a poet. And his best friend, this poet was dying, and his best friend came to see him and asked him this stupid question, how do you feel? And Fontenelle said, I feel a big difficulty of being. And c'est ça. Que ressentez-vous, monsieur de Fontenelle? Je ressens une grande difficulté d'être. Voilà. But, Rob, I don't know how you can take off this dress.
I don't know either.
But, okay, so you can...
Maybe you can help me, Ali.
Ali, can you help?
Sure.
I don't want to do the Q&A in a comedy way.
Voilà. So it's a bit chaotic presentation, but this dress is a dress I designed in, I would say, 69, 70. This is a period, for 8 years, I hijack material. I never like silk or things who are too sophisticated. So I was considering to do like archaeology of material. And this is bandage. This is a bandage. This can fit you very well, actually.
Maybe for the evening, more evening
better
wear,
on Greta, I think, or on Lucy. And, you know, this technique doesn't exist anymore. Actually, most of the technique I've used at this time doesn't exist. It was, they were doing the bandage link with a special stitching they were cutting after. And it was my first, I think, cover of a magazine. This is a little cutie. What I like is that they all cut as a flat cut, like a flag or like Japanese outfits. Oui. Pardon. Voilà, c'est mieux. Ça, c'est une robe de 75. I always was fascinated by heraldic, you know, heraldic logo. So naturally, I went to the iconography of cartoon. This is not just a normal cartoon, it's also a spatial cartoon. You can see the way the structure of bunny is constructing the structure of the clothes. Voilà, almost finished. This is when you have no money. This is a little cash machine.
You have to buy this with cash.
Voilà.
Right? Yeah.
And to answer to our friend Ali about the link to social things or to politics, this is a dress I designed 4 months before President Obama was elected, you know. And actually, very strangely, I show it in my fashion show 4 months before, and we start to receive like not love letters actually, but trade letters, you know. People say, how can you support a man of color?
No.
Yeah. And so we have been it was just
Weird.
amazing, the quantity of letters.
The back of this is very beautiful too, right? You should show the back of that one.
Yeah. I mean, and the back is actually is the accident of the pink glove of my father. You can see very good quality, beautiful sequin, and the most cheap flocage printing in the back. This is very, very important. Voilà. And for the little story, Katy Perry wants to wear it at the MTV Award, and it was the day of the election. And I said, but maybe Katy, Obama will not be elected, and she said, I will wear it anyway, and she did.
Okay.
Voilà, this was the little fashion show.
Yes.
Merci. Thank you, Ali, for your help.
You have your wallet here.
Oh, you know, this we don't. Thank you.
So, any questions? Buradan başlayabiliriz.
Hello. Firstly, thank you for this great panel. My question is for Robert Montgomery. Actually, I have 3 questions, if it's okay.
Okay, 3.
Okay.
3.
So, I enjoy your works very much, and I love the poetry in it as well.
Thank
I
you.
kind of see them as deconstructed, like a whole poem, which is deconstructed and kind of scattered around the cities, which kind of affects me. My first question is regarding this. Are you, do you have any way of dividing the lines when you're writing? Like, do you have a rhythmic deconstruction of the lines? Do you specifically know where you're going to end the line and then go on?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's graphic. It's you know, I write the poems for the billboards in design software in Illustrator, and I compose them as graphic things. You know, which is something that comes from concrete poetry. And there's a book just published by the Hayward Gallery in London, which is a history of concrete poetry. It's called The New Concrete, and my work is in that, and it shows the context of concrete poetry in Britain going back to the 1920s. Very early examples are people like Wyndham Lewis, who did a journal called Blast in 1913, actually, and it's one of the first examples of British modernism, and he did these very strong graphic poems. So, you know, it's not a new thing, actually, that I'm doing. It goes back to the 19-teens in terms of a tradition. And, you know, I really love concrete poetry, and I think it's something that I can do in my own way, I guess.
Diğer iki sorunuzu almadan önce başka bir soru alalım. Vaktimiz kalırsa size dönelim.
Hello, Robert. I'm following you since 2011, I think. It was a summer night when I find about you, and since then you are expressing my emotions, which normal people cannot understand, and I adore you.
Thank you.
And I want to thank to the organizers, actually, because they are bringing you here. Last year they bring you here for an exhibition too, and thanks to them. And I want to thank you for coming to Izmir, because I'm Izmirlian. I was
great.
born and raised in there. And your work is on a mall. And please come to the more historical places, like old Greek lands and old Greek or Italian houses. There are so many places that you can bring your art, and we will appreciate it. And you can call me if you want to come.
Well, we're coming on Monday to visit the site of the piece, so if you want to come and give us a tour of the historic part of the city, we'd love it. Yeah. Nothing better than a local tour.
Thank you. Istanbul is so beautiful, so the artist can be blinded about it. And I want to give you a gift right now, because I cannot catch you between the sessions. There's a picture on it. I think you know about them, the dervishes in the temple of Pera.
Oh, yeah.
And I wrote a poem to you from Rumi, and I want to give it to you.
I love Rumi. Thank you very much.
Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you. That's kind. I love Rumi. I love the dervishes.
You should read it.
So great.
So, any
Merci,
more
Thank
poems or you guys?
Très joli.
More than questions. Mikrofonu böyle ikinci sıraya alabilir miyiz?
I think you bring the microphone.
I'll try to make this a question. But I felt your relationship with the city and the art, and this is something that we living in the big cities cannot really find easy to, you know, catch the feeling of art, the feeling of culture most of the time. I mean, in a city like Istanbul, everything goes so fast. But what you do, I mean, both of you, I think creates a connection between the citizens and the city and the art itself. So I was wondering, if you go now in the cities of Istanbul, what would you write as a message to us, people of Istanbul?
In the backstage, we did a drawing before we came on for the talk,
yeah, I've
automatically.
Seen it.
And I think what we wrote is Istanbul, City of Freedom.
City of Freedom?
Yeah.
That's a good desire for us, I guess.
It's not a joke, it's just a hope.
We would wish
right?
for.
It's like Jefferson said, it's punk positivity, like Jefferson said yesterday.
That's perfect.
You
Thank you.
You have to sing the dream into being.
So we have one final question. Böyle önden.
Hi. I have a question for Jean. You're French, but you're born in Morocco, so
Yes.
I just want to know the story. Like, your mother is from where, like, and your father is from where? So, like, how, because you're French, probably you got inspired by an Englishman, and the way you describe. I'm a designer, so I depend on my sight. So when you were describing it, I literally was imagining the tweed and the smell and all the rubber, glove and everything. So I just want to know how everything affected you, like your background.
But it's actually getting together now, all this, because I was born in Casablanca, in Morocco, and I remember at this time my father actually lost his fortune, And so the only thing he was good into it was to play piano, you know. So I remember him sitting me on a big, those round cushion, you know, Moroccan, and maybe you have this also in Istanbul, in leather, you know. And he was playing Debussy for the king, Mohammed V, you know. And I don't stay long in Morocco, but I stay for 4 or 5 years. Then my life I've been like a lot of military boarding school, because I was programmed to be an officer, you know, like all my ancestors. And secondarily, I think all this very strong souvenir of child has animate my life and my imagination. And when I come in a city like Istanbul, I feel I've been there before, you know, strangely. I feel it belonged to me, or I belong to the city somewhere. I'm not scared, I'm not fear, I'm not, this is part of me. So I think maybe it's my link to Orient. It's my way of being linked to the sun and to the countries, you know.
Thanks so much
Thank you.
for
Welcome.
coming, for your
Thank you, guys.
Merci.
Thank you very much.
And I forgot, I want to thank Jenny Mannerheim, because she
Introduced us.
done a commune adventure between design and the art of Robert, and each other, which is here.
There's a pop-up store for each other down the
Yeah.
street,
Yes.
which
With,
people can go visit.
Starts at 3 or 4, right?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We will do another fashion show with Robert.